Good evening, Queens. Come on in the room. It is time to gather. Come on in here. You know what to do when you get here. Drop your name. Let me know who's watching. Come on in the room. Let me get in over here. What is it? Happy Sunday. It's the last Sunday, y'all. It's the last Sunday of February. Hey, Miss Wallace, how's it going? It's the last Sunday of February, and we got here quick. I'm telling you, 2026 is off and running. Hope you had an awesome time worshiping wherever you worship today. I hope it fed your spirit, fed your soul. I know that we had an awesome time today at New Life. We ended the last Sunday of February. As always, we tribute Black History, do a special service um, relating to Black history, and you know, it was wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. But come on in this room. We got a lot to talk about tonight. Can't wait to share with you on this evening. Invite a friend. You know, I always ask y'all to get a cool drink. Do y'all have a cool drink? I hope you have a cool drink. Gather a cool drink. But tonight we are going to end our discussion, our topic that we've been talking about all month. All month we've been talking about identity. And we are going to go ahead and tee up March's topic. The month of March, we are going to be talking about boundaries. And I know you're probably saying, Sherry, we've talked about, oh no, we're going to do a deep dive on boundaries. So, hey, Miss Claudia, good evening. So yeah, we are going to do a deep dive on boundaries. But before we talk about boundaries, we are going to close out on identity. I want to say this. Last weekend, when I hung up from y'all last weekend, I felt complete. I'm like, girl, you done got on here, done all this crying and done all this talking. And I'm like, they looking at you like you got 20 heads. But let me tell you something. I want to say something about you all. I got so many. It humbled me so. But I got so many. I got text messages. I got phone calls afterwards. I got email from someone in Colorado, y'all. I didn't even know. Someone from Colorado reached out about the live. Hey, Miss Lisa. So when I tell y'all touched my heart on last week, just by the outpouring of what happened after we got off the live last week. So I just want to say thank you. But more importantly, I want to say thank you to the Lord. Because he wastes nothing. God uses everything. He uses everything. And all we have to do is just say surrender. Just surrender. And let him use you according to the way he designed you. And so let's go. We are 5 after, and I'm ready to close out the month of February. The the month of, let's start at the beginning, because we're just 2 months into the year, right? And so I really do have the end of last year, I sat down and really designed a roadmap for 2026. I put great thought into, Lord, where is it? What do you want your queens to know? Where do you want your queens to go? in 2026. So I really have the year all planned out. This is the first time I've ever done that. In the past, it's always been kind of spontaneous, but y'all, I'm growing, I'm getting better. So we got a whole format. And so we started in January, um, talking about direction. So our the question on the floor was, where are you going? Where are you going in 2026? Do you know where you're going? Um, and so the focus was on awareness, clarity, and intentionality. And remember, we said movement versus direction. We defined movement. Anybody can move, but it doesn't mean that you're going anywhere. It's when you have clear direction. And then remember, the second week we talked about being honest with yourself. You know, you can fool everybody all day long, but you cannot fool yourself. And once you get honest about where you are, then God can do something. He can propel you forward, but you first got to be honest about where you are. And then we closed out January talking about alignment um, over urgency. You know, we're so busy moving, so busy trying to get somewhere, but let's slow down and let's make sure that we are aligned with his purpose for your life. And so February was about identity. Who are you becoming? January, where are you going? February is, who are you becoming? And it was really, we kicked off uh, releasing old identities, releasing old identities, things that people had placed on us that wasn't even, it might have been us, it might have been us, but maybe the seasons, you know, you're holding on to who you were in a previous season, and God is like, can you let go of that, girl? I'm trying to move you. The seasons have changed in your life, and it's time for you to let go and become who I need you to become in this new season. And then we talked about becoming versus performing. We're evolving. It's okay. It's okay to evolve. It's okay to grow, to change. Um, and you know, it's not, you're not performing for anyone. No, you're not performing, you're just being who God created you to be. And then last week we talked about letting go of who you were for who you're becoming. And we get stuck. Has anybody ever been stuck in in who you were, or who somebody thought you were? And when you don't know who you are, um when you're not clear on your identity, then when life begins to happen to you, or your roles change in life, you become an empty nester, you get divorced, you retire, all those things. If your identity is tied to roles that are always shifting versus who you are and your assignment, you you'll flail, you'll falter, right? You'll always be unsteady in who you are. And so that's what we've talked about so far. So let's tie a ribbon on identity. Becoming who you already are. Don't you know that um this month was not about reinvention. It wasn't about reinventing who you were, who you are, but it is about revelation. Did anybody get that this month? Did anybody feel that? It's not revealing or reinventing, you know. We always want to reinvent ourselves. You know, we get to 50, oh girl, you know, I'm gonna reinvent myself in this seat. No, It's about revelation. It means uncovering what was already present, but it might have been hidden, right? It might have been hidden. And so many of us think that growth means becoming someone new. No, growth is not becoming someone new. It's about becoming it's about being conformed into what God already intended you to be. God already had a purpose and a plan already laid out for you. Romans 8 and 29 says that we already know it by heart. It says, for whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his son. So conform does not mean fabricated. It does not mean made brand new. It means shaped into original design. So this becoming who God already designed us to be is revelation. It's not reinvention. We are not reinventing ourselves. We are not becoming something artificial. We are becoming aligned. We're just coming into alignment as we become. Y'all out there, what y'all think? What y'all think about that? For those of you just hopping on, drop me a hello in the chat. So, identity is received, it's not achieved. Remember, culture today defines identity, or culture is building identity through achievement by what you do. Visibility, how many people see me, how many likes get are on my posts, by productivity, by what we're doing. Why what I'm not um who am I is tied to how much I produce. Or influence. My identity is tied, or culture says identity is tied to how many people you're impacting. No. Scripture builds identity through adoption. Remember, we talked about that last week, through covenant, through grace, through belonging. As long as I belong to who do I belong to? I belong to Christ. I belong to Jesus Christ. I am a kingdom citizen. Romans 8:15-16 says, for you did not receive the spirit of bondage again to fear, but you received the spirit of adoption, by whom we cry out, Abba, Father. Yes, God the Father, he adopted us. And so the Spirit himself bears witness with our spirit that we are children of God. I belong to him. Adoption language matters. Adopted children do not audition. Y'all, do you hear that? Let me say it again. Adopted children don't audition. They're chosen. They are chosen specifically, individually, intentionally. They are chosen. We are chosen. So when identity is received, when we accept that identity from God, the striving decreases. I'm always striving to be, always striving to prove, always striving. That decreases. Comparison weakens. Y'all, we don't have to compare because we all were chosen. We all have a unique identity through God, through Jesus Christ. So we don't have to compete. We don't have to compare. I don't have to compare with you. as he created me to be, am fearfully and wonderfully made. And so when identity is achieved, performance anxiety increases. So first, if you just receive the identity that Christ has given you, strife decreases, comparison weakens, and anxiety softens. But when identity is achieved, hey mama, meaning it's always tied to doing something, then performance anxiety increases. Because if I don't perform like someone wants me to, then my identity is in question. It's always weighing in the balance. Burnout accelerates. You get tired of always having to perform. You get tired for always performing. So have um have you been believing like a hired servant? This is a good question. Have you been believing like a hired servant to earn approval, or have you been acting like a daughter, a child of the Most High, and you're secure? Number 2, you cannot protect what you have not claimed. If you do not internally agree with what God says about you, you will negotiate your worth externally every time. If you do not accept the identity that God has given you through adoption, you will question or negotiate your worth externally. So identity insecurity, when you are insecure about who you are, it's going to produce overcommitment. Remember, we talked about this. The over explaining, the over giving, the under resting. You are always trying to perform, always trying to please when you are insecure about who you are. And y'all, I'm just summarizing where we have been all through February. It's just a summary. Jesus never chased validation because he was anchored. He was anchored in who he was. He didn't have to he didn't have to chase validation. He didn't have to set out to prove anything. Jesus never set out to prove anything. He just was Jesus. He just was Jesus. I can't tell you how many times I have chased validation instead of just being secure in who I was. John 5:41 says, I do not receive honor from man. Hey, Millie. So, John 5:41. I don't receive Jesus didn't receive his honor from man. His honor came from God the Father. That's spiritual maturity, y'all. When identity is unclear, access becomes currency. When identity is unclear, approval becomes oxygen. When identity is unclear, boundaries feel dangerous. But when identity is clear, access becomes selective. And you know why it has to be selective? Because you have to protect. You're protecting who you are in Him. When you know who you are, when your identity is clear, you have a clear understanding that you cannot come in, everybody can't have access to you. Everybody can't handle you. And we think that that is so arrogant. We think that is just so, that is just how can you think like that? No, I know who I am. And I know, because I know who I am, if I get tangled up with the wrong person, that's going to wreck who God made me. It's going to wreck the assignment that he has on my life. It's not arrogance. When identity is clear, peace becomes priority. Because when my peace, when my peace is bothered, when my peace is broken, then that messes with who I am. It messes with who I am. When my peace is messed with, then that begins to do something to me internally. And then I may not respond according to who I am. How I may respond may be outside of my identity, right? And when identity is clear, no becomes possible. I'm just summarizing. We're just summarizing where we've been. My identity is clear, then no becomes possible. It ain't hard for me to say no because it's not in alignment with who I am. Identity matures through testing. Testing is identity refinement. James 1, 2, and 3. We read it. If we didn't read it last week, it was a couple weeks ago. Count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing the testing of your faith produces patience. Patience here implies endurance under pressure. It's endurance under pressure. So testing exposes whether your identity is rooted in applause. What? When ain't nobody clapping for you, will you waver? Will your identity, will you shake? Will you question it when nobody's clapping? Will you compromise who you are and your alignment with God because you're not sure if you're accepted any longer? When the hand claps stop. Testing exposes whether identity collapses when misunderstood, when you've offended someone, or someone has taken what you said or what you've done, they've taken it out of context or how you meant it to be. And testing exposes whether calling is sustained without recognition. When ain't nobody attaboying you and patting you on the back, can your identity stand outside of that? Jesus in the wilderness was tempted in Matthew 4, was tempted specifically around identity. The enemy came for who Jesus was, his identity. He said, if you are the Son of God. So notice the attack. It wasn't about his power. Had nothing to do about the power of who Jesus was, but Satan attacked him on his identity. So testing often questions, are you really called? Are you really secure? Are you really loved? He's coming for our identity. So growth answers these questions quietly through endurance. Through endurance. What y'all think? Y'all all right out there? Y'all all right out there? Becoming requires surrender. And we think surrender is passive. Surrender is not passive, but it's alignment. When we surrender to God, when we lay down our desires, our wants, what I would do, what you would do, when we lay that down, that's surrender. But we're surrendering to be in alignment with God. Luke 9:23 says, if anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself. Denying self means denying ego attachments, not denying divine identity. Y'all get it? It's denying the things that make us look good, feel good, appear big and good and prosperous. But our divine identity, it's about emulating God. God was not flashy. God was not loud. He just was. He just did. He moved in who he was. And so Luke, I just read that. So your surrender, when you surrender, we are surrendering the need to prove ourselves. I do not have to prove who I am to anyone in God. I don't have to prove. When you don't have to prove anything to anyone, you move different. I learned that. I learned. Let me tell you something. I learned that. I don't have to prove nothing to you. You don't have to like nothing going over here in 104B. Nothing. I don't have to ask. I don't have to ask your permission. When your identity is secure in him, you do not have to prove yourself. All you have to do is be who he called you to be. Be who you be according to how he has made you. You surrender the need to control perception. Let me tell you something. And I promise y'all I'm not going to cry. I ain't crying this week. But I had such a need to control how people saw me in separation. Y'all, I'm just now being able to say the words divorce, that I was divorced. And so I learned what I learned through that season, and in another season in my life. If you take the weapon out of the enemy's hand, if you let the enemy stop weaponizing your story and be okay, be secure in who you are, that disarms the enemy from using your story against you. You can't use my story against me because I am so secure in who I am. Because I know that it was nothing that I did, but it was his grace and his mercy that kept me, that covered me, that I was called and selected intentionally and on purpose because he loves me that much. And he loves you. He chose me in spite of everything he knew about me from the beginning of time. God made a decision to choose me with open eyes. And he did the same for you. And when you are clear, when you are clear in your identity and you surrender to him, you surrender the need to hold outdated roles. Y'all, some of us are living in outdated roles. We are so busy. Remember, we talked about roles last week. You are so busy being tied to a place that you are no longer at. And please know, God ain't there either, because God is a progressive God. He is a progressive God. So he is trying to he's not where you trying to hold on to, where you have wrapped your legs and arms around holding on to a season that you are no longer at, and he has moved on, and he is up here in the present trying to get you to come on here, get to this present, because this future is next. And you stuck two seasons behind because your identity is tied to a role versus your identity in him. Many people confuse surrender with loss. Biblically, surrender precedes resurrection. Ooh. What did God have to surrender before he could get to be, or what did Jesus have to surrender before he could be resurrected to be on the right hand of the Father? So my question to you is, what do you have to surrender to get where Jesus is wanting to meet you, is wanting to do something in your life? No cross, no resurrection. No pruning, no fruit. John 15:2 says, every branch that bears fruit, he prunes that it may bear more fruit. Pruning is not rejection, it's preparation. Y'all, if we don't get this self-identity thing, if we don't get this identity thing down pat, we won't be prepared for where he's trying to take us. Identity is important and it's foundational. We already talked about in January, where are we going? We had to figure that out first. Second, we needed to take a look at our identity. Do I have a healthy sense of who I am? Where is my identity tied to? Because we've got to get that right before we can talk about boundaries. Without identity clarity, boundaries feel harsh. With identity clarity, boundaries feel holy. Boundaries are not about pushing people away. They are about protecting what God is cultivating. Remember when I opened up and said, if we are not clear, if you are not clear, if we are not clear on who we are, then we'll get tangled up and attached to things, to people, to situations that will wreck our alignment in God and will wreck who um, where we are going and who he is trying to get us to be. We will wreck those, we'll get involved in people, will in places and things that will keep us from the destiny that God has already laid out for us. Boundaries are what is required to protect us. It's about protecting what God is cultivating. If identity is not settled, if you are still struggling about who you are in Him, boundaries feel selfish. Saying no feels sinful. And rest feels irresponsible. But when identity is secure in Christ, you recognize stewardship. You recognize stewardship. Even God set boundaries, and we don't believe this. God set boundaries. In Genesis 2, the garden had limits. What did he tell Adam and Eve? He gave them boundaries. Now you can do whatever you want in this garden, this perfect place. You can do whatever you want, except what? See that tree in the middle? Leave it alone. He set boundaries. And because Adam and Eve acted outside of the boundaries, they got into a situation that wrecked their destiny. They got into a situation, they got into an entanglement that caused a great divide. Come on. Boundaries are there for protection. In Exodus, the mountain had boundaries. Moses, you come up here on this mountain, what do you got to do? Take your shoes off. Had boundaries. And in the temple, the holies of holies have restricted areas. Everybody can't go to the holies of holies. His boundaries. How you living? Don't come up in here raggedy. How you living? Boundaries. Sacred things are guarded. And guess what? If you understand who you are in God, you will understand that you are sacred too. What? Yeah, you sacred too. So can't anything touch me? I can't touch anything. I can't go everywhere. I can't do everything because I'm sacred. And I have to have boundaries in place. That's why we're going to talk about it, y'all, the whole month of March. Boundaries. Jesus withdrew repeatedly. Luke 5:16 says, so he himself often withdrew into the wilderness and prayed. Often. He did it often. He created a boundary often. Not occasionally, but often. Withdrawal was rhythm, not reaction. See, when you create boundaries, when you create continually, often, time to separate, time to steal away, it becomes a habit, it becomes a rhythm, it becomes a flow. It's not reactionary. So if Jesus needed solitude to remain aligned, why do you think constant access equals faithfulness? If Jesus created boundaries, if he created rhythms or patterns of stealing away, of not being able to access him, but to go protect his peace, to protect the destiny on the inside of him, to stay aligned with the Father. Why would you think that you wouldn't need it? Why do we think we wouldn't need boundaries? If you are around someone that is always consistently negative, 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 not anything positive to say about anything or anyone, and you hear it day in, day out, and then that seeps into you because you didn't create a boundary, and guess what? Now that evil communication now has corrupted your good manners, your good thoughts, your positivity. And now every time someone come around you negative Nancy. You always complaining, always talking about somebody, always leading with the negative versus the positive, because you don't have boundaries. And so everybody with every kind of spirit and every kind of thing has access to you. Boundaries preserve alignment. Jesus did not heal every sick person in Israel. Newsflash. Jesus didn't heal everybody. He healed those aligned with his assignment. Y'all, we need to, I don't know that we realize that. We feel like we got to save the world. Jesus, that's not your assignment. You are out of alignment. Who did God tell you to go talk to? Who did God tell you to connect with? Who did God tell you to share with? Who did God tell you to walk with and disciple? Who did God tell you to be in relationship? It's according to your alignment in him. John 6:15 says this: therefore, when Jesus perceived that they were about to come and take him by force to make him king, he departed again to the mountain by himself alone. He refused the roles that were not assigned to him. Assignment clarity requires boundary courage. Assignment clarity requires boundary courage. You got to have courage to have boundaries, especially if boundaries are foreign to you, especially if you've never implemented them in your space, in your life. It takes courage now to start implementing or moving in boundaries. Peace is an umpire. Colossians 3:15 says, and let the peace of God rule in your hearts. Rule means to arbitrate or to settle. So if peace consistently withdraws, you need to pay attention. If you're around someone, if you in a situation, in a place, connected to people or groups that constantly challenge your peace, and we'll talk about what peace is next week, then you might want to take a look at that. Peace leaving is not weakness, it's a warning. Your peace, if you're always talking about your peace, it might be a warning that you are overriding. So identity before access. This identity, we had to talk about that before we moved into boundaries in March. So each day, every day, leading up to March, I want you to do this. I want you to pause before you say yes to anything non-essential. How are you going to know if it's non-essential? Is it aligned with who God says you are? Question number one. I told y'all supposed to come to the gathering with pen and paper. Number two, is this aligned with the direction that I'm walking? And number three, am I responding from a place of pressure or a place of peace? Want me to say them again? Three things you're supposed to pause every day leading up to March. And you're only going to say yes to anything, or you're going to pause before you say yes to anything non-essential. Is this aligned with who God says I am? Is this aligned with the direction I'm walking? And am I responding from pressure, from a place of pressure or a place of peace? And we're going to close with this. Y'all ready? You are not what you produce. You are not what you manage. And you are not what people need you to be. You are not what you produce. You are not what you manage. And you are not what people need from you. But let me tell you who you are. You are chosen. God chose you. He chose you from the beginning of time. He chose you intentionally. He chose you on purpose. He chose you knowing everything about you from the beginning. From the beginning. And he still said yes and picked you. You are adopted. We are adopted into this family. And you are formed intentionally. And because you know, and because I know, because you know who you are, and because I know who I am, you are no longer afraid to protect it. Y'all, it's okay to protect who you are in him. It's okay to protect your God-given identity. It's okay to protect it. That is not arrogant. That is not self-righteous. That is not selfishness. It's not. And in March, we're going to learn how to protect who we are becoming, who God says that I am. We are going to learn how to protect that. So, Queens, happy February. This is it. I think we got 4 more days left in it. 5 more days. I don't know. But this is it. Next Sunday will be the first Sunday in March. I believe it's March 1st. Is the first Sunday in March. And in March, we're going to unpack boundaries, because we already know who we are in him. We are aligned with him. We are only attaching ourselves to things, to people, and to places, situations that support our identity, and that we are aligned with. That's aligned with God. So have an amazing Sunday. If you're on the East Coast, be safe. because you guys are about to interact with a blizzard. We will definitely be praying for you all. But everyone, just go be great and just go be you, who God called you to be, in alignment. Have a great night. See you next Sunday, same time, same place.